a suicide in prison, or even with the Stainer case, everyone involved with that died in jail. The guy who wrote the book, I Know My Name is Steven, turned out to himself to be like a child predator and public exposure, and he died in jail. Over and over. How much of that have you found that the guy at the center, the patsy, the guy who's everything targeted, dies either in jail or on trial or heart attack, something like that?
Yeah, I think often. I think the best example is the case of Leonard Lake and Charles Ng.
Right.
Leonard Lake was brought to the police station, and he swallowed a cyanide capsule that he had in his bucket.
Yeah, I believe it was in his shirt collar. He had a little hole in his shirt collar with a cyanide pill.
Yeah.
And
almost
by the way,
even in Born Identity, like they were triggered to commit suicide.
Right, yeah. But what is that? Because it makes sense though, because the guy was charged with shoplifting. The guy was caught with shoplifting, like a sandwich and a socks or something stupid, and then he's going to commit suicide. Why?
Yeah, I know. If you read documentaries or read books, the official story doesn't add up. It doesn't make complete sense why he committed suicide in such an early stage of the investigation. Yeah.
Or even think, too, it was such a small amount that they caught him with. Why would they even bring him back to the police station? And those kind of things, they give you a desk appearance ticket.
Yeah, I think he was driving a car that was from a missing person. He also had a weapon in the car. So, yeah, they took him to the police station, yeah.
Now, but describe that whole Lake and Ng case, because that's one of the really more extensive ones as well, with the guy was planning bunkers and all kinds with sex slaves and things.
Yeah, Leonard Lake and Charles Ng were both in the Marine Corps. They were both dishonorably discharged, I think, of honorably discharged. Lake was for mental reasons. He claimed to have been in Vietnam and did all kind of shootings, but the army never recognized this. They said he never was at Vietnam, so it's really contradictory what actually happened. And basically, he was supporting himself by selling pornographic videotapes. He was always fascinated by pornography, and he was going to I don't know how you pronounce it, those festivals with a goat that was transformed like a unicorn, and he was taking pictures from children with the unicorn. And later he was married to Clarelyn Lynn Ballas, also named as Cricket. And they acquired a property from Cricket's parents in Wilsey, Calaveras County, and they were making a real-life horror story, like a dungeon and secret rooms with one-way through mirrors, and there was so much stuff that you think, are only two people here responsible for all this, or is there something more at play?
Well, at the very least, we know his ex-wife and his mother-in-law were involved, because they even tampered with evidence and stalled the police, and they were in a video too, where they were talking about it, where he was saying he wanted to create bunkers with sex slaves. So at least that much we know.
Yes, around that time we was already talking about the New World Order and the coming of Armageddon. Yeah, that's also pretty weird. That some of those serial killers always have inside knowledge about what is going to happen, like 30 years into the future. I mean, I've uploaded the last part of my YouTube series, and I have an interview with Eileen Warnes. The killer was connected with motorcycle gangs. She bluntly stated that the world is going to end. I don't know if she's telling the truth, but she really said in 2019 we have a nuke war. And this is interviewed in 2003, 2002. How the hell did she know that we have those kind of issues at hand? I mean, what she says is actually true.
Yeah, that's true. A lot of this, yeah, and she also says too, and she goes on and on. You could tell in those last scenes, because that video was taken right before her execution, like an hour before her execution, and she clearly lost her mind. And she was talking about how they were using sonic pressure to make her pumping it into her cell to make her go crazy, And then when she would talk about certain things and write about certain things, they would increase the pressure. And if you watch that last video, this is a woman who clearly something drove her crazy. Because there's earlier interviews with her in this same TV show. It was a Nick Broomfield documentary. Yeah, it's very well done. I got my own issues with Nick Broomfield. I was involved with the Shelley Tripp case, and he did a story about Sarah Palin, and he knew about our case. And first he said he believed it, then he said he didn't believe it, then he used it in the thing. And he also portrayed the Palins to be like right-wing Christians, when everybody knows that's not them at all. They're a wild bunch over there in Alaska. They're poker games and strip clubs. And so he has his little agenda, so it makes me suspicious about his other work. So I don't know. But what else with the Arlene Warnes case? Because there's a big biker Hells Angels connection to that, right?
Yeah, she was also always connected, associated with the biker scene. Yeah, she never left that scene. I think it was in Daytona Beach, yeah. But I really think in that last interview, she was really speaking the truth. I think everything she said was true. I mean, she was truly outrageous. If you don't know anything about these subjects, you think she's crazy. But I really think she was telling the truth.
And that she was used as some kind of an assassin for some government operation?
Yeah, well, she actually stated that the police already knew she was killing men because she was a hooker, a prostitute, and probably sometimes she was being sexually abused against her will, and she made efforts to kill them. But later they just let her killing people. And some of those people were also military connected and former police. So maybe it was just shooting off the competition, competition.
Right. And it doesn't have to be that she knows the reason why she's killing these people, or what's going on. Because there's people around you that can manipulate you into doing things. There's other people who could be hired and working for the government, that are just putting her in their path, or connecting her up with these people, and then they wind up dead.
Yeah, there are always, I think, at least 20 or 30 different motives for any kind of group, any kind of entity. There's always also the motive that they wanted that she killed people for they could make movies and write books,
right?
And could re-election people in government, in the politics.
Yeah, I think that's the one too, where Nick interviews one of the cops who said that his house was broken into, files that he had and stuff. Is that the same one or no?
That's the same one, yeah. That's also very interesting that he actually just said he was threatened, not by Arlene Warnes, because she was imprisoned, by the other people who definitely didn't want to have the truth come out, yeah.
Right, and Arlene Warnes was found, she was arrested. It was called, I think it was called The Last Chance or the Final, whatever, bar, What was it?
The Last Resort.
Last Resort, yeah. We're sleeping like on the floor. Behind this biker bar, which is the same biker bar that she first started 20 years earlier. She was staying there. Tragic childhood, too, living in a tent in the woods, being molested by the whole neighborhood.
Yeah, Jesus Christ, her childhood, it's really, I don't get sympathetic much, but her childhood is really horrendous. It's really sick. Really sick.
And yet also, too, at one point, she was like 20 years old. She married a guy that was 90 years old who was the head of the country club and the yacht club and all this kind of stuff. He was on the board of directors for all these things. A high society character.
Yes, that is right. And then those, I think, are indications that she was connected to to some entity. Some also with Jeffrey Dahmer. Like they were really selected to become something.
Right, just like Berkowitz says, I was chosen at birth. So tell us about Jeffrey Dahmer, because that guy's all over the place, man.
Yeah, Jeffrey Dahmer. It's everybody knows Jeffrey Dahmer, I think.
Everyone thinks they know Jeffrey Dahmer, but when you really start looking into it, the guy says himself, he had an altar in his house,
Yeah, he had a lot of things. I think as a teenager, he was always fascinated by the occult and Satanism. And I read in the FBI files about Dahmer that he also had a big pentagram in his apartment that was taken out. Only just a big pentagram. He had to hang out somewhere. He had a copy of the Satanic Bible. There was. I think Dahmer was also always a person who was had multiple personality disorder. I mean. his last victim, Tracy Edwards, really said he was in a dissociate state, and he was chanting, and he was really out of his mind. He was not really weird behavior. So I think really, and he was, I think this is the classic definition of someone who is really has some satanic influence around him.
And also he had previous contact with the police, where they let him go.
Yes, on several occasions, police intervened his activities, but always let him go, or he was on parole. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. I didn't realize that. Right. So that at the time when they came to his house, when he had the young Asian boy, that young Asian boy was the older brother of the other kid he was on parole for molesting.
Yeah, that's truly unbelievable. I don't think anybody can really acknowledge that was a coincidence. I really think he was deliberately targeting the brother of that guy because he wanted to take revenge. Yeah.
Right, and then I had, I think his name was Steven Spingola, one of the officers from there in that area who investigated Dahmer, and he was trying to defend that, saying, "Oh, well, those cops were so busy that night." But then later on, we find out that there was 3 cops there. They couldn't have been that busy if there were the 3 of them were showing up for this thing. You know, 1 or 2 cops shows up. Okay, fine, they're too busy, got to go because everybody's busy doing stuff. But they had a couple of cops standing around, hanging around doing this. Again, video cameras inside the house.
Yes, he had also a Polaroid camera, and he also had a computer. And there is also being investigation if he did contact some people in that criminal milieu. Yeah.
Well, really, what year was that again to have a computer? What year is that?
It was in 91.
91? Okay, that's still pretty unusual. 91 is,
Yeah, exactly. I think, why the hell did he need a computer? I mean, this guy worked at the chocolate factory and was an alcoholic and, did his murderous activities. Why did he have a computer?
Right,
Probably contact someone.
Yeah, 91, you had to use DOS. It was all DOS commands. You had to know all those DOS commands. There was no Windows back in those days. Now, also, too, Dahmer, there's a story about when he was on a school field trip as a kid.
Yes, that was McGowan's investigation. He came to the conclusion that Dahmer made a telephone call to someone in the White House that they were giving private tours with his classmates when he was going for a school trip over there, yeah. And it really resembles the stories of Paul Benassi from the Franklin scandal. Like he was going to the White House to have private tours and engage in sexual activities with politicians and drug use.
Yeah, and we know all that went on because they actually arrested Frank Vincent, one of my guests, who was involved in procuring those kids. He admits it, so it's not like it's some kind of a bizarre theory. We know that stuff went on. And no one talks about his Satanism, but Dahmer says, I was drinking their blood and I was eating their flesh to get energy and power and to be more popular. This is what he said out of his own mouth, So how people can assign these other motives, it's just contrary to everything we know.
Yeah, exactly. I think that statement also brings forth some credibility to your theories about why the hell do those people those things about videotaping the exploits, drinking blood, killing people. It's like indeed for making them more powerful, like they have more energy.
Yeah, we talked about this in the first interview that got lost. That back in the Old Testament in the Bible, it talks about they had these Asherah poles, and people would sacrifice their children and do human sacrifice at these Asherah poles, and it was for political power. They did this, So, and, we never hear that. Oh, well, then they figured out it didn't work, so they stopped doing it. Even Solomon, King Solomon, went back at the end of his life. He was worshiping these Asherah poles. So, and then you hear Pizzagate and all these people in power doing this kind of stuff. It makes you wonder. But another pattern that I see to all this lately is these official stories that come out, these official movies, and these official true crime writers who write these books. It seems like some of them are purposely repeating an official cover story. Yes,
that's my same perception of the case, indeed. I think some of those authors they have talked to law enforcement and other entities, and they all state